Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Trendy John from Simpler Trading. Real quick, a few announcements before we get started. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this a quick like. I'll try to be pretty quick this morning on this beautiful Sunday so we can get out on the boat with our families and just enjoy the day. I hope to update my Twitter account so you guys can see kind of how our day develops and so forth. But I do want to give you the news. I want to remind you every time I jump on here. October the 20th is going to be the official start of our challenge this year. So Melissa and I are going to have another challenge. It's been a bit over a year since our last one. Now, again, always past results do not mean it's going to happen again. But last time we did do this, our concentration was keying in on you and building that confidence, that consistency, and just getting you where you need to be as a trader and hoping to take out some of the hard stuff that we went through and making it a little bit easier for you. That challenge is going to cost a couple bucks for you to come in for an entire 30 days. And then when we're finished with that, we'll go over the results. Last time, Melissa did this and we keyed in on her account. She grew her account over 80%. We'll be trading all kinds of fun stuff. We'll be doing futures, long-term trades, intraday trades, scalp type trades. So everything. If you're looking for something that is giving you a taste of everything, this is going to be the stop for that. And more information to come out, but you can reach out to Simpler Trading and contact support, and they will be happy to help you. If you don't know their phone number, you can just go online and check that out. Or you can also just go to simplertrading.com and you can sign up to the Trendy Room for $7 for 30 days. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started here with this week's broad market analysis. We're going to start with this economy, politics, calendar. And basically, what I'm doing here is this shows economic reports and Fed speakers for the week. So we just want to be aware of any volatility that could come into the market. Of course, we are going to be covering the 28th futures open tonight, 5 o'clock Central Time, my time, and then over there on the East Coast, 6 o'clock. So we're looking at Monday, September the 29th. Just know that these can create some volatility in the market. So we're just taking and making aware of the times so that if you happen to be in trades, you just know what's coming up. Okay. Now, I will tell you that these catalysts, anything that creates volatility, me and Melissa are very pumped up. Like, I love action. I like to see price movement. It's when things really start to slow down that we look at selling credit and stuff like that. But anytime we're thinking volatility could come in, things get really interesting. So Monday at 7:30 Eastern Time, we have Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller speaking, Cleveland Fed President Beth, and then pending home sales, Atlanta Fed President Raphael speaking. So Monday, not a whole lot going on there. We could see a move back up towards some resistance. I'll be talking about that for tonight and into tomorrow. And then I think we hit possibly a short trigger, and I will also cover that a little bit later. Tuesday, September 30th, we're looking at Federal Reserve Vice Chair Philip Jefferson speaking. S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, 945 Chicago Business Barometer, job openings, consumer confidence, and Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee speaking as well. Then, big deal here. So 2 days, right? We end the quarter candle, but we also start October. So big week. I'm very excited. I can't believe I'm thinking this, but October is going to be filled with a lot of great stuff. Matter of fact, we have a webinar coming up. I have to check the date, so I could be wrong on this, but I want to say that Melissa and I are doing a webinar either the 7th or the 8th of October, and you won't want to miss it. We'll be talking about her SPX trading and how she's used Trendy Methodology to replace an income for the year and did really well. And then she's kind of like tweaked a little bit of the Trendy Methodology to make this even better. And we'll be talking about that. So you won't want to miss the story, but we'll also be discussing what we do here at Trendy and our overall performance for this year, which has been great. All right. So we can't wait to share that with you. On October the 1st, we have ADP employment, construction spending, PMI, ISM manufacturing. Things start to get a little bit more interesting here as we open up a new month. And then Thursday, October the 2nd, initial jobless claims, factory orders, and then another Fed speaker. And then closing out on Friday, we have U.S. employment report, some hourly wages, S&P final U.S. PMI, ISM services, and Federal Reserve Vice Chair Philip Jefferson, who will be speaking. And then you can see as we're getting ready, not much going on into that next week. But we'll cover that next Sunday. But just look at this. Looks pretty boring into next week. We'll see. All right. So the next thing that I want to be looking at is going to be uh, X, right? Let's look at Twitter. All right. And the reason why, one, I hope you guys follow me. And sometimes I hear, well, I don't have a Twitter account. Guys, sign up. It's free. And you get to, you're going to see more content over here. I may be putting some stuff up here, but also it's a great way to, if you're a simpler trader, whether you're in my room or somebody else's room, you can also get over here and just support us on social media and perhaps see some more content that you were not aware of. When you go to my profile, you guys will see this is me. There's a lot of hacks out there. What I mean by that, there's a lot of people trying to impersonate me. You could just come up here and put Trendy John in. You'll see all different ones with my same picture. Make sure that you're looking at the right one. Make sure that it's the same following, it's followers right here. Make sure that the name is spelled the correct way, because what these hack jobs do out there is they try to go after people and send them a message and then ask for money. We will never do anything like that on our X account, okay? But anyways, give us a follow. But the next thing I want to show you is I come up here in the search button, and I've been following these guys for a long, long time. Earnings Whispers, and the reason why I follow them is free content out here. And then I take a look and I look to see what the calendar is, and I always go over this with you guys. And, far as this week is concerned, I don't really have a lot of interest in earnings this week. A lot of times I do. Once we start ramping up into financials, then things will get kicked off. It'll be really fun. The only two names that I'm really interested in here is going to be Carnival. I just want to see how they're doing. And then, of course, Nike. We had a leap trade that we've already closed our profits for the year. But I may jump in for a earnings trade using some debit spreads. So, stay tuned. I will cover that probably Tuesday morning. And if there's anything else you want to see that is reporting soon, just ask me and I'll be happy to go over that. So again, the earnings calendar, pretty boring as of right now. Not much going on, but I just want to show you guys that really quickly. Okay. So let me tuck this away and then we'll get down here into some charts. All right, so the next thing that I want to be covering with you all, now that we've went over the econ data and then over the earnings calendar, is going to be SPY and using the bigger picture. I like to use the quarterly candle. And the reason why I do this, if you could just imagine in the background, I have several positions on most of the time, and I'm using this to kind of guide me in my portfolio. So for example, like, higher time frames, we're making higher lows, higher highs. Therefore, we have an uptrend, and you'll notice that this trendy cloud here, every time we come into it, it has been support since many, many decades. You look back, and so what that means for me is anytime we dip into here, I want to be looking at buying, right? Now, I will take note that we are a bit extended here from price into the 9 EMA, and what we do know, it's not about if, it's when, right? It's when. We know that price always reverts back to the cloud. The timing is the variable, and we try really hard not to get in the way of the trend. So the overall trend, we're going to figure that out, but I want to show you we're very close to the 2025 projection. Now understand it's 675 all the way through 743. We're very close 2 days before this candle closes, and therefore, again, I'm still looking to see if we get what we call three white soldiers. Now, I do think we'll come in a little bit going into this quarter. We may even come inside of the body of this and maybe digest for a bit, but I feel like we end up rounding out and ending in my projection before the end of the year. And again, that is just my opinion. This is not guaranteed. So just want to make sure we're very clear on that. The next chart that I want to be looking at with you guys is going to be the weekly. The reason why we go over the weekly is because when it comes to the weekly, we want to make sure, week to week that we're following the right trends, and I'm giving you some levels and hopefully helping you out to guide you in the best way that I can with overall technicals. All right. Now, what I'm doing here is I am anchoring my Fibonacci's from the low there to the high here. I'm using our Trendy Methodology, which we talk about and teach there in the room. And again, guys, if you pay the money and come in, you're going to see the videos. You get to watch all that fun stuff. And if you have any questions, I'll teach you about it. But this is the bullish channel. So far, it's working really well. We expect that to be support. And then down here, we have a lot of confluence on the weekly around the golden profit area of the 50 and 618. If we were to pull into there, I would definitely be interested. Now, this week, we have something very special. We created the past week an inside candle, and you'll notice that I have these dashed lines there just over and under. If we go up and over the 662 and a quarter, we have an inside and up. So I'm anticipating an inside and up formation as long as we don't close back under the 661 and three quarters. Okay. So not a lot of risk in here. This is kind of nice, but at the same time, it may be tricky this week because we may get over it and things look really good. And then we may be under it because it's such a small level. But one thing that I do think is that by the end of this coming week, we will have a definite answer of whether this went inside and up or if we ended up getting the inside and down formation like this. Now, the inside and down, if we were to get that, leads to further continuation to a possible move back to 657 and even all the way down to 645. So please, please keep that in mind. Again, it's a if this, then that. I just want to give you those levels to help you understand when the IAU and the IAD inside and up and inside and down happen. And just be aware of the areas of support because overall, folks, we have green banners up here, which are Fibonacci, and they're telling me that the overall sentiment for me, according to my methodology, is to buy the dip. But do I buy the dip on small dips or am I looking for these bigger? I would say from a weekly standpoint, we wait for the bigger levels for price to get there. This has nothing to do with intraday trading. Just want you to be aware of the bigger levels, okay? Now, the next thing that I want to go over is going to be the QQQ. And same thing, everybody, on the Qs. When we come over here on the quarterly, it looks absolutely amazing. No need to go over and show you all of this, but the cloud works great. It's been working for many, many years. We have this extension up here. It looks extended as well. We did hit the 2025 projection, but because my NASDAQ projection is still off by about 700 and something points, once you do the math and you divide it by about 44, because every 44 points in the NASDAQ is about $1 in the Qs, you're looking at a target for this year about around 618. But again, on the SPY and the Qs, I'm expecting a little bit of a pullback going into this quarter. And then if we wrap back around, the possibility is still there that we could hit 618. Again, it's not a guarantee. What I do like is that we did hit the projection here. We do have two beautiful candles. And again, everyone, we could possibly see a third candle giving us that three white soldiers. Okay. Now, as far as this goes, my bull channel is 554 by 525. And if for some reason we get a really ugly pullback, I'm definitely a buyer around the 503 level to 478. It would just be an area just like earlier in the March, April timeframe where we had that dip and I had areas where I wanted to buy. Okay, so that's Qs on the quarterly. Let's go ahead and go into the weekly. And as you imagine, it looks pretty much like the SPY. We had an inside candle. We have the inside and up that starts at 597.85. That's where we anticipate that we'll see continuation to the upside. And if we break below 595.87, then that's an area where I anticipate that we could pull back further down towards 592 to 590. And on a bigger pullback, then I'm looking for that move all the way down into around 578 to 580. Okay. So what you can take away from the SPY and Qs in between the inside and up and inside and down anticipation, you could use this as a neutral zone. I'm not saying you can't trade it. That's more of an even deeper intraday strategy where we're using like 5-minute candles, 30-minute candles, 2-hour candles. But on this, we could just stay neutral and say, hey, hands off as long as we're chopping in between that inside and up and inside and down anticipation levels. Okay. All right, now that we've gone over the QQQ, now let's go ahead and dive into the dollar. We're going to come over here. We're going to put a dollar sign, DXY. Remember, guys, even though I am talking a little bit fast and may not be fast enough for you, you can always go into the settings on YouTube and change this. I like to watch people's YouTube videos at about 1.5 to 2. That speeds things up because I know that you're all very busy and you're just trying to get the content that you can get, and you could do that by speeding up the speed, okay? So here we are on the dollar. Notice that we came down into the buy zone. I talked about that last week. I said once we get into that buy zone, you could see the market start to pull back a little bit. We did see a little bit of a pullback this past week, but then we moved back up towards the end of the week. Matter of fact, we had 3 days down and then we started to curve right back up. There's a possibility, I'll talk about what I think is going to happen, but again, what I think is going to happen this week and what I want are two different things. Price is king. Here on the dollar, big thing for you is that 98.20 level. I've been talking about it for many, many weeks. It's the same way. If we're up and over it, please take caution in the market, as I think we could still go sideways to down. Okay. If we start to move back down towards this green level, guess what? Most likely, market's still starting to trend to the upside for that potential move back up. But I do think that there's a short trigger, and I will get back to that towards the end of this video. So that is our dollar. And so far, 98.20 is just that key level. It's an over under. As I move down, I want to be talking about actually, you know what? For the TNX or the 10-year treasury, nothing's really changing. So I'm going to bring this down quickly. And you'll notice here we have that same chart. Basically, as long as price is not down at 3.8 or above 5.005, it's just really choppy. We're going to hear things in the news. You're going to hear things like Jerome's changing his stance. Maybe he's dovish, then he's not. He's hawkish. Who cares? We're between two major levels, and it's just really choppy. And this is a great time for people to come in, especially on news channels, and kind of like throw some fear out there. But again, the major levels 5.005 and 3.8, nothing to really talk about there. The next thing is I want to talk about the skew. The skew came down quite a bit. It's showing 141. The skew is basically telling me if the skew is coming down, that means the SPY is starting to come down and we're starting to see some fear in the market, perhaps. And once we get to these levels, you can see right here, I have a level that I've been using for about a year and a half. If it comes to there, I'm looking at buying some SPY calls just for about a couple days out to see if we get like some sort of relief bounce. That means that more fear has come into the market. And if we start to move all the way down here towards 117, which honestly would be just really nice, that means extreme fear would come in here. That means a lot of people are on the put side. That means we're getting that pullback that a lot of people were looking for. And then I'm looking for technicals on the SPY, the Qs, the NASDAQ, ES futures to see if I want to go long there. So please stay tuned, especially if we come into these areas. At the moment, I'm not really concerned about going to the risk off area unless something comes out over the weekend, like today, or into the early part of the week, and the market just goes extremely bonzo, to the upside. Then again, this would be a nice area for me to think about insurance or puts. But at the moment, I'm more sideways to down thinking in the market. But first, we may get a pop. And again, I'll show you that here shortly. Okay. So biggest thing here is if we were to come into this area, I do have a plan. So in the room, you guys will see and hear about that. We'll keep our eyes peeled for any direction change there. Fear and greed index, we were just talking about it. It's at 53 this week. So if we come over here and we see that 53 is there, it's saying neutral. So again, for me, neutral means sideways to down for me until proven otherwise. But again, I do have some levels for you to the upside. So just give me a few minutes here. As we move on from the skew, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at one of my favorite parts, and that is the ES futures. As a reminder, we trade the futures every single morning for about the first 30 to 60 minutes, but we're also talking about our long-term option trades and or equity trades. And then once we hopefully make quick money in the morning, then I move on to the rest of the trading day, which is options and equity, selling credit, all that kind of fun stuff. Okay. So ES futures looks a lot like the SPY. You guys know that. You can see that. That's an inside candle. Same thing. I want to give you some levels here. We're inside and up if we get over 67.16 and a quarter. We're inside and down if we go below 66.97. And again, these are just anticipation, and anything between here can just be chalked up as neutral to just intraday trading using smaller time frames. Okay. One thing that you'll notice here on the daily is I'm going to have these triggers. Last week's triggers worked pretty well. This week, you're going to notice I have not had a short trigger in quite some time. Now we do have one on there. So as I said, for the ES futures, I do think that we can get a pop, and I think that we could pop up into 67.16 and possibly see up towards 67.40. This is my short trigger though. Hold on. It doesn't mean we put on a blindfold and just go short. There are things that we look at on smaller time frames, and then I look to see if that's matching up, and then I'll try my short from there. Okay. All right. So again, these are trigger longs, trigger shorts, and resistance levels, but I use technicals to take those trades if we get to those levels. Biggest thing here, wait for the level, then we go to a smaller time frame, look for the confirmation, then we take the trade. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to show you the 4 hour, and the reason why I do this is just to kind of show you where those edges are going into this week. Our upper weekly edge is around 67.40, basically resistance by 67.40 by 67.56, using that high. And down here on the lower weekly edge, I'm looking for some support, potentially if we were to pull back around 66.55 all the way down into 66.38. We could find buyers in here. Everything between here, as long as we're making higher lows and higher highs, I do believe that we continue to march up towards this resistance. And if for some reason we start to break down and make lower highs, then I do believe that we could move back down towards this area. All right, so that's what we got there on the ES futures. Now let's go ahead and move over to the NASDAQ futures. Same thing, we're going to work from the top down. We're going to go to the weekly. On the weekly, we have an inside candle. Notice over here that same things, inside and up goes 24,850, inside and down 24,725. The difference between those two, just in case you're wanting to know and you don't want to use the calculator, you're looking at about 125 points or $2.85 in the QQQ. This area could be deemed as neutral. Just leave it alone for if like you're a long-term trader. It's just a neutral area. Intraday traders, once we kind of clip over those levels, then we can go to our smaller time frames, which we'll be talking about in the room, and I'll give you what we'll do far as that is concerned. Okay, inside and up just means continuation, but I think it could move us into a short trigger, and then inside and down, obviously, I'd be looking for possibility to move back down towards last week's low, and then possibly even into 24,184, and even to the 9 EMA, which is around 24,000. Okay, so that's the NASDAQ weekly. Let's go over here into the daily. Last week's trigger long worked really well. You guys can see that after 3 consecutive days down. We were looking for a move up. We finished Friday on an inside and day, and that means that Monday could be an inside and up formation. Again, resistance is going to come in at 24,802, and I just want to make a note here. If we hit resistance on the ES futures or the NASDAQ futures, this could be a short setup as well. Again, I need to look at the smaller time frames. The short trigger itself comes in at around 24,963. Again, all these triggers, I want to wait for price to get there, then go to a smaller time frame and decide whether or not I'm going to go long or short or just stay neutral. Let's go ahead and move on into the 4 hour, same thing. Notice that we have our support levels here, our lower weekly edge, our upper weekly edge. These areas are serving as resistance to the upside, support to the downside, and everything between there. We use smaller time frames just to kind of trade our PMZ and so forth, okay? Next thing that I want to be looking at is, guess what? That's right. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin. Okay. What in the world is Bitcoin doing? Man, it was looking absolutely amazing, especially for my projection for 2025. And then we got this really ugly topping wick. However, it's still staying in there. What I really want to see before this quarterly candle closes and before the end of the month closes is that this thing can stay above the body. If it doesn't stay above the body, it means that we're not going to get 3 white soldiers. But what it could mean is if for some reason we close inside this body, that the next quarter could be an inside and up formation to finally hit that projection. Now, I was off about $13,000 so far, but again, we still have quite a bit of time before the end of the quarter. So bets are not all off. It could be the same way. We may consolidate for a little while, pull back a little bit, and then round it out into 2025. All right, so that's a Bitcoin quarter. What does the weekly look like? Let's just take a look here. All right, so we came into a green zone, but we created the inside and down here. So this area is resistance. What these arrows are telling you, this is resistance till proven otherwise. So if we're bouncing out of here, say tonight, and we open up and we gap up, even if we gap up, I think this remains resistance. Just be careful. If for some reason we gap down and we get below this level of 107,000, then there is a possibility we can move all the way down to this blue line, which when I hover over it is about 101,000. And we could even come down into this green zone around 97 by 92 and then round back out. Honestly, what I'm seeing here is just a lot of choppy action between these two levels, and the bigger move itself either happens above here or below here. You could say that all this is neutral for the time being. That wraps up my broad market analysis, guys. Don't forget to give us a like. Please make sure you come and join us here in the Trendy Room. It's only $7 for an entire month. Can't wait to hang out with you, and I do believe that you'll learn the best stuff you've ever learned. Can't wait to trade with you. Melissa and I are waiting to hang out with you. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.